Welcome to A Diary on Ubuntu. My name is Christina Lunkuse. I'll be your host. A Diary on Ubuntu is a podcast where we explore the aspects of belonging through the lens of creators, creatorpreneurs, and institutional enablers of community. We'll be discussing aspects relating to identity, culture, with the intention of discovering how we can rebuild and reconnect with one another. All right. Patrick, how are you today?
I am great. How are you, Christina?
I'm well. Thank you so much for being with us today on A Diary on Ubuntu. Do you know that you're our first guest?
I know, and I'm humbled. Speaks also to the introduction that you gave me. It was humbling, and I'm excited to be here and the very first guest on the Diary of Ubuntu.
Yeah, it's the reality.
Yeah.
So maybe quickly, you can introduce yourself to our audience.
All right. My name is Patrick Ssentongo. I'm professionally a journalist, but I'm also a practitioner in the communications world. I currently work with the Uganda National Cultural Centre, UNCC, which is the government agency that handles arts and culture in the country. I am into the communications at the centre, and I'm still also practicing the journalism. I write with the Daily Monitor newspaper. I handle a lot. I do communications, I do public relations, I do media relations. Yeah.
All right. So, Patrick, from where you sit, what does social infrastructure look like in Uganda's context, and where is it?
Okay, a country is run by a constitution, and the constitution directly stipulates how the social infrastructure is achieved, all is streamlined. So coming from the culture artistic world, there are various laws that bound us, that guide us on how certain things have to be done. I'll give you an example of an act that guides the UNCC. UNCC is the government agency that handles arts and culture in the country. It is
UNCC is a big representation of social infrastructure in Uganda, actually, as an institution. The mandate it has, the theatre it hosts is an extension of that infrastructure as well.
Yeah. So from the national perspective, that is how the structure is. The government at the very top, its role is strategic, and of course it now gives the powers to a ministry, which ministry runs an agency like UNCC. And in there are acts. Now like UNCC, of course there are very many other agencies. When you get into communication and the broadcast world, you'll find UCC, the Communications Commission in there. You'll find people in tourism. All this is at national level, government trying to streamline of ways on how people get together in various groupings so that they drive this cohesion around the social infrastructure.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe how do you think we're doing in managing our social infrastructure as a country? Where are we going in terms of what new developments are there that are giving those who play in the space of culture promotion, those who play in the space of promotion of the arts, those who play in the space of recreation, how are we supporting them? How are we doing in terms of supporting them?
In terms of supporting, yes. So far, what I would say is the journey has been long, but it is a step in the right direction. Speaking as someone who is in the arts sector and also probably at a stakeholder level, the journey has been long. One of the biggest challenges that we faced in the culture, arts, creative industries, that most of our mandates are scattered. We have scattered mandates. Now that has affected the way things are being streamlined. I'll give you an example. UNCC here, as the government agency that is supposed to mandated to run the arts and creative, the culture sector, there are certain mandates that are actually not under our jurisdiction. I'll give you an example of film, the film industry, fast growing in the country, and it's one of the aspects in the arts that people are looking at today, and one that is proving to be a cash cow. But you'll find that film is again regulated by the Communications Commission. Ideally, it should be under our mandate.
I see. And there's no coordination?
The coordination is there, but you now understand that when mandates are scattered, UCC has their leadership. UNCC has. You'll find that there are aspects that ideally fall into culture or the arts but are in tourism. So it's discussions started.
Which one? Which infrastructure falls under tourism that should ideally?
You'll find that there is an aspect of the
Okay.
uh, visual arts that falls under tourism.
What are visual arts?
Visual arts are the people that do like the art pieces you find
Ah, I
here.
see.
Yeah.
So like the museum? Would you say the museum?
Yeah, you'll find
Is that
the
under
museum,
tourism?
yeah, that's under tourism.
I see.
Yet ideally that would be under the arts, the creative sector. So the mandates are scattered.
Which is anchored under UNCC.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell the audience what UNCC is in full. Who is UNCC?
Yeah, UNCC is the Uganda National Cultural Centre. UNCC, which is most commonly known as the National Theatre. Now, National Theatre ideally is just an aspect. It's the building, it's the infrastructure, that the physical infrastructure that is on the UNCC ground. So UNCC is mandated to run arts and culture in the country, and it has two infrastructures below it. One is the National Theatre, the building that is well known. Another is the Normal Gallery. Now, Normal Gallery is the national gallery for the visual artists.
I see.
And UNCC, it is run under 9 domains that make up the arts and creative culture sector. Yeah, that's it, particularly.
Okay, so now I think I see what you're saying. You're saying that we have, for them to do their job well, arts and culture are easily aggregated when you have visual arts coming together. Yes. And then you have film, because film is an expression of the arts. Exactly. And actually film is an art. But then film is mandated under somewhere else. You have the tourism taking the arts. Exactly. So why does that happen?
This is what happened. Back in the day, there used to be, I think shortly after the independence, the governments that came, we used to have a Ministry of Culture, an independent Ministry of Culture.
Is it? What year was this?
When you look back into the early 60s, shortly after the independence, there was a
Ministry of Culture
that used to handle that, But as times, passed, the aspects of culture, art, and the creative sector were embedded into the broader Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. So you'll find that at the ministry, all we have is a Department of Culture. Now you'll understand that Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development alone, just the name, will show you that there is gender. Now gender is wide. I mean, everyone is either male, at least in the Ugandan perspective. Yes. Everyone is either male or female. Yes. So the gender aspect at the ministry itself is big. Yes. Labor is the same. Labor, like every adult is into the labor sector. Social development itself also is big. Now it's under the social development area at the ministry that the Department of Culture falls. Now the Department of Culture is the one mandated to run all these things. So artists, mostly post-COVID-19, because it is during the COVID-19 pandemic that most of these realities came to life. Artists realized, or creatives realized, that a time can come and you've been a stop has been put to your activities and everything going on. So discussions started at that time that how can we as creatives, practitioners in the arts culture, how can we try to change the narrative? So they realized that part of the problem was the scattered mandates. Yeah. And actually creatives, the artists, are on a case. They are trying to engage with government. How do we try to consolidate all the scattered mandates into a single ministry that can handle us?
Are they organized, the artists? Are they organized under like institutions? How are they organized? How are they doing this?
Because COVID-19, the industry was structured, but not fully. So after COVID-19, the government, also with some private sector partnerships, they try to structure the industry, and now the structure is very clear. You realize that at the very top there is the government, of course, which is the ministry that is taking the sector. Now below that there is a government agency, which is Uganda National Cultural Centre, UNCC, which is a government body. Now below UNCC there is a private sector body, which is the National Culture Forum. Now the National Culture Forum is the apex body that takes all associations and federations in the sector. Now this is where the
National Culture Forum.
Yeah, the National Culture Forum, NCF. Now this is where the federations and associations all associate. They are under the National Culture Forum. So the the organizations you talked about, where artists are getting themselves into associations,
Yes.
they all federate under the NCF. So the structure is now clear, and everyone knows. That's why even the funding for the sector in this particular financial year has increased to a tune of 66 billion, because government can now clearly track that they release money at budget level from Ministry of Finance. It comes to the Ministry of Gender. Ministry of Gender will streamline it below to UNCC. UNCC knows how to reach the artists under the associations. So they directly work with the private sector, which is NCF, to reach to all these private associations. Visual artists have theirs, which is Uganda. Artists are musicians. You see, we have a problem. Most people think artists are musicians, but musicians are just a component of the artists.
Yes.
So artists also have Uganda Musicians Association. They have the Uganda Musicians Federation. We have poets. We have very many other people.
Yeah.
And
you have people in theatre. I learned recently that theatre, people who are organized under theatre and dance are held separately from those in stand-up performing arts. So they don't. It's a different performance from poetry. It's also different from comedy. Although they're all performing arts, and also very different from film.
Exactly. When you get into the
but they're all creators and artists.
They are stage performers, they are dramatists, they are stand-up comedians. So it's an entire big, wide element around it. So to answer your question anyway, the industry is now structured.
Yes.
And the structures are very clear, like I broke it down.
Yeah.
So it's now clear. It's a step in the right direction. And I think the artists' call for an independent ministry is on the right track.
That's the call? Yeah. They want an independent...
They want an independent ministry, so that
Ministry of Culture and Arts?
Yes.
Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
I see. Maybe what's one example you can share with us, Patrick, of something you've seen that has happened, and if that maybe from your perspective was so powerful to witness, and you know that only happens because they have the enabling environment to do it. Is there anything that comes to mind that you can share?
Exactly.
I think it will help to appreciate why, much as people can act, people can paint, they can create, they can write, sometimes for this to really be experienced and consumed by the audience, there have to be enabling factors. So can you give us an example of something that you saw and you said, wow, this is actually powerful stuff because of maybe the way it impacted people, and what was the enabler of that? Maybe you can share with us.
Okay, so during the COVID-19 lockdown, pandemic time, one of the most hit industries was our sector.
Yeah.
And artists were not working. Actually, most of them went broke. Others moved into depression. They actually got into drugs and all that. So because of the structure that was worked upon, artists coming together in various groups, they managed to speak with one voice to government. And I think it was 2022 when their voice prompted government in the alternative budget that they passed. They were included. Now, when funds came, government, the structures that are broken down, when they received that money, artists were reached in their respective groups, and it was more of a kickstart. Yeah, a kickstarter for them, because they are just opened, the economy. They were given these funds for them to kickstart their career. Some of them were music producers who could, panel beats, rub some dust off their machines.
Yes.
Some artists didn't have funds to go back to studio.
Yes.
We have even theatre itself was closed, and some theatre groups, some of the actors in there had moved back to their villages. They managed to return and kickstart. All of this was possible because of that organization. Government found a way of how they could directly reach to these people.
I see.
That is one living story that I can speak about.
Are there things are there events, are there active gatherings or get-togethers that you can speak to that came as a result of that?
Yes.
Maybe you can share with us an example.
The famous Uganda Musicians Federation that is led
as a result of that?
By Eddie Kenzo is a result of that, because artists had become frustrated, and initially with existing associations for musicians. Some, because artists had their egos, had their initial fights. Now, some of them chose not to associate under the Musicians Association, well known as UMA. So the federation now came to unite all associations because artists were choosing
For the music industry.
Yeah, for the music industry, it's the example I'm giving because it is one of the vivid ones. So the federation came and was like, hey, we are all musicians. How about we get all these associations with all your differences, you all come and federate under one umbrella body. And it is the reason of the coming of the federation is the reason that the long-term cry for the Copyright Act
is now
at the forefront and,
Yeah.
and ongoings to try to rectify a few things in there is because of that, the coming of the federation. Yeah.
Was there anything maybe you saw also at UNCC as
course.
the anchors of theatre? There are artists who actually utilized. Was there where that money was used to create production?
Exactly.
This is what I'm asking. You know, sometimes when we receive, when money is given
Funds.
and it's free, and there is no plan, it's given and it's okay. Sometimes, like you said, people were very poor. They had run out of money. They were broke, and so they needed resuscitation, even just to pay rent.
Yes,
and maybe that's what the money was used for. But I'm also wondering if there were plans, and maybe the call is whose job is it to make sure that when investment is received, there are actual pipelines of sustainable work that investment is going to be used to create continuously to ensure that there is now that when the country reopened, because now it's 4 years since COVID, whose responsibility is it to ensure that when that money is actually given, it's creating sustainable work and not just resuscitating and then that's it?
Yes, I spoke to how the money in the first place came into the sector, from the top to the bottom to the association. So a call was put. I don't speak for the National Culture Forum, the NCF, but at least I know of what happened. So when money came from government through the structures to the independent associations, one, artists under those associations, their leaderships were tasked to put down a proposal or more like a plan of what were their priorities. Yeah, because you will ask me how was the money also divided. Money was not divided equitably, like not every person got the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Of course, they looked at what various associations presented, and it's those that they looked at to give whatever amount of money that was given. So I'll give you an example. Musicians tend to be very many numbers compared to poets, or to visual artists. So I'll also tell you, there is an association where I had a friend, the MCs Association. They also put up something. So the money was divided or given to
MC is like a master of ceremony?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. In the sector, they are also taken to be part of this creative sector.
Oh, I see.
They fall under the domain of support services. So there, under the support services, they are MCs, they are bouncers, something that people don't know. They are promoters, music promoters.
And these are all different.
Yeah, exactly. So these people were tasked to put out plans, to share their plans, their budgets. What are the priorities you need to work on? I'll give you an example of the MCs. You know, they had something to do with. We have very many MCs from all over the country.
Yes.
And we don't have a database for those people. Some of some MCs from other regions were complaining that maybe bar owners are not paying them well and all that. But there is no way they could have their call put out. So one of the things that were included in the plan for the MCs was they wanted to create an online database where all their members can register and they have their details so that they can help themselves, and they were helped in that way. So even other people, just fine. So after the money was dispersed, the next plan was execution of the various activities that were presented. After, they needed to present back a report on how the money was spent through the NCF to UNCC, and UNCC to government. So the entire...
It was a closed
it was a closed thing.
Yeah, maybe just to ask you as we wrap up, why is it important for us to continue to invest in this creator ecosystem?
One, because also the sector gives back to the economy, to the country. If you look at the recent budget, the recent, let me say 5 years, this sector, the arts, culture, creative sector, contributes close to 3% of the GDP, the national budget. Now that speaks. There are very many industries, ones that are actually prioritized by government, that do not bring back those returns. So it is very sad that a sector that brings up to a tune of 3% of the GDP is not invested in back.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons in the very first place. Today it is this sector that is employing very many young people because of the dynamics around it, because of the digital day and age. People are making money online, people are, doing a lot of creative
work, yeah.
And you'll find that a person even who graduated in anything professional, in education, I've seen lawyers, I've seen medical doctors who are reaping money off the creative economy.
Yes.
So you can't undermine or underlook such a sector that is trying to solve a very big problem. You'll find that very many ghettos in the country, which also proved to be a challenge back in the day for the government. Very many of the young people in the ghettos are living off the creative sector.
Work.
Most of them are
artists.
Music,
they do music,
they do acting, and so that alone should speak to why there needs to be investment into this sector. But above all, it is a sector that speaks to our origin as Africans. You see, it is the culture sector that groups people in their respective kind of social binding.
Yeah.
You'll find that, let me say, in the central here, there is a certain way we do things. All that is embedded into the culture fabric. And it helps government, or probably the entire globe, to sustain a few things, like irresponsible kind of lifestyles. They will tell you that in Uganda here, the central where I originate from, it is very important that as a young man, when you grow, you need to marry. And when you choose to find a woman to marry, it's not just you moving in with them. You need to put a certain level of status and formality to it. You need to go and visit, formally marry her. Now that is an entire structure that is solving the bigger problem of having very many people not married. That is just an example. There are also other things where they speak to, let me say, working, being hardworking, because it is the social culture fabric that speaks to, if you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah.
So it is the cultural setting that speaks to some of these things, which in the end try to streamline the social being of people in a country like Uganda.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Welcome,
Patrick.
Christina.
Thank you for your time. I think for me, one of the biggest things I've taken away, one, I didn't realize how many organizations actually anchored the creator economy. I think it's a start. They may not be perfect, but I also see how the journey through which organization then allows people to access opportunities. When there's funding available, they're able to actually also access those opportunities. But also finally, I think what you've also tied back is that all this infrastructure just allows us to preserve the parts of us that are very important, which is our culture, which is our norms, and really staying true to our own. We're not lost. And so as we live our day to day, we are able to still have identities that we can relate with and live together and have an environment of living that is good for everyone.
That is very true.
All right. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for hosting me as well.
Yeah. And thank you for you who have listened in today, and we'll hope you have picked something valuable from this episode. And till next time, we'll see you again on A Diary on Ubuntu. And as part of our commitment to supporting the creator space, we have some opportunities for learning. You can find different types of events like the market days for local artisans and creators looking for some new customers. We also have the Kampala Rights Lit Fest by GZK. Must attend for anyone in the literary arts space. Jennifer Nansu Makumbi will be giving a keynote speak, so you must be there. There's also a talk by a lawyer turned digital creative, and she shares her journey. And we also have some really fun events by a couple of the communities that we work with at Tonda. Tonda is the company that produces this podcast, so you can check those out on the application, and I'm sure you'll find something you like. Right, happy belonging.